I had just lived through what felt like my worst nightmare. The president of the HOA had accused me of stealing my own Rolls Royce that sat gleaming in my driveway. Her justification? According to her, a 22-year-old could never legally own a car like that. But truthfully, the only thing stolen that day was my peace of mind. Let me rewind to where it all began. It was a Tuesday morning when the letter arrived, sandwiched between a gourmet dog treat catalog and an invitation to a charity gala I had no plans of attending. The envelope was printed on heavy, cream-colored paper, the kind that tries to impress you before you've even read a word. At the top, in elegant script, were the words, Magnolia Ridge Homeowners Association. My wife, Sam, was in the kitchen arranging lilies in a crystal vase. Sunlight spilled through our tall windows, bouncing off her smile, which was as warm as the morning itself. I lifted the envelope dramatically and groaned. Brace yourself. The Fun Police sent us another notice, probably about the exact shade of beige our mailbox should be. Sam laughed, her voice like soft wind chimes. Did you dare use eggshell instead of cream, you criminal? I ripped it open, expecting another passive-aggressive note about lawn height or trash can placement. But what I read made me blink. Then, read again, and then again. Words like legal action, unauthorized vehicle, and title forfeiture leapt off the page. They were suing me. For my own car. A short, sharp laugh escaped me. Not because it was funny, it wasn't, but because the absurdity was unreal. The letter, signed by Karen Glass, the HOA president, claimed my cobalt blue Rolls Royce Spectre was an unregistered and unapproved commercial vehicle. It even went further, alleging I was running some sort of luxury transport service out of my home. The demand was clear. Surrender the car immediately for impoundment and inspection, or face fines and eventually a lien on my property. I looked outside at the driveway, where the Spectre shimmered like a piece of art on wheels. It wasn't just a car, it was a symbol. We bought it to celebrate years of sleepless nights, sacrifices, and small victories that finally stacked into something bigger. It represented the promise Sam and I made to each other, to enjoy the ride, not just survive it. And now, a stranger wanted to take it away. You won't believe this, I muttered, handing the letter to Sam. She wiped her hands and read it. Her expression shifted, first curiosity, then disbelief, and finally a slow burn of anger I'd seen before. Sam was kind, but when someone bullied her or the people she loved, that kindness turned into steel. She's suing us for our own car, claiming it's stolen. I shrugged, trying to brush it off. She thinks it's some kind of billionaire Uber service. I'm sure it's just a mistake. Paperwork gone wrong. I'll call the HOA office. It'll be fixed in 5 minutes. Back then I was confident, maybe too confident. My life was about solving problems logically. Identify the bug, apply the fix, and everything works again. I thought this would be no different. We had moved into Magnolia Ridge 6 months earlier for peace and quiet. We wanted a yard, friendly neighbors, and maybe even a dog. The neighborhood was idyllic, perfect lawns, old oak trees, everything polished and orderly. It was supposed to be our version of the American dream. But then there was Karen Glass. I had seen her once barking orders at a landscaping crew like a drill sergeant in a pink pantsuit. Neighbors whispered about her ruthless control, her obsession with tiny infractions, and her vendettas against anyone who resisted. Still, we thought if we stayed out of her way, she'd stay out of ours. We were wrong, because her kind of tyranny didn't need provocation. It just needed a target. And our shiny blue Rolls Royce had painted the perfect bullseye. I spent an hour battling the HOA's phone system, designed by someone who clearly despised human beings. Finally, I got through to a woman who sounded as disinterested as possible. I explained politely, even offering to send every piece of proof imaginable. The title, bill of sale, my ID, birth certificate, heck, even a DNA sample. Her response? A cold, robotic, all disputes must be submitted in writing. Miss Glass handles all legal matters personally. You'll be notified of your hearing date. Then she hung up. My earlier confidence soured into frustration. This wasn't a glitch. This was intentional. Okay, I said to Sam, who was now pacing. New plan, forget the phone, I'll go in person. But when I searched for the HOA office address, my stomach dropped. It wasn't a professional office at all. It was a private residence. Karen Glass was running the HOA out of her own living room. She controlled the accounts, the rules, and the legal proceedings, all from her house. This wasn't just a system error. The system itself was rigged, and Karen was the one who built it. 5 minutes had turned into the start of a war. 2 days later, another certified letter arrived. The lawsuit was still there, but now it came with a bonus list of brand new, fabricated violations. A $5,000 fine for tire marks on my own driveway. Another $10,000 penalty for noise pollution, even though my electric car was quieter than a golf cart. And the best one, a $20,000 citation for running a business from home with the car as proof. In total, $35,000 in fines on top of losing the car. This was no longer ridiculous. It was predatory. I called my lawyer, Jessica, a sharp, no-nonsense professional. She listened, then gave a low whistle. This is textbook abuse of power. She's betting you'll be too scared to fight back, that you'll just pay to make it disappear. She thought wrong, I muttered. Jessica nodded. Good, but listen. It's going to take time. Document everything. Every letter. Every word. Don't deal with her directly. Sam and I tried. We tried to live normally to ignore the storm Karen was brewing, but she made sure we couldn't. The very next evening, while Sam and I sat on the patio sipping wine, 2 men appeared at the edge of our yard. Their uniforms were cheap, their expressions blank, and their shirts carried only one word across the chest: compliance. They just stood there, arms crossed, silently watching our home. They weren't just neighbors standing around. They were there to intimidate us, living, breathing proof of Karen's reach. I walked to the edge of the lawn, forcing my voice to stay calm. Can I help you, gentlemen? One of them, a bulky guy with a shaved head and a tattoo creeping up his neck, smirked. Just observing, making sure community guidelines are being followed. On my private property, I pressed. He gestured toward the narrow strip of grass by the road. Common area. We can stand here as long as we want. And they did. For 3 long hours. Silent. Unblinking. Waiting. By the time they finally left, darkness had settled, and the tension in our house was thick as smoke. Sam was shaken. My frustration had hardened into something colder. Anger. Karen wasn't just filing papers, she was trying to break us inside our own home. The real breaking point came that Saturday. I was in the garage, detailing the Spectre. Cleaning that car was therapy, polish by polish, line by line. Classic rock hummed in the background, low enough not to bother anyone. I was so focused I didn't notice the police until one of them walked right up my driveway. He looked young, uncomfortable, already tired of the conversation he had to have. Sir, we got a call about a disturbance. I shut the music off. A disturbance? I'm washing my car. He gave me a look, half apologetic. The caller said, and I'm just repeating here, that you were laughing hysterically and revving a loud engine, possibly prepping for some kind of street race. I nearly laughed, but before I could, his partner, an older officer, stepped forward, eyes cautious. For officer safety, sir, turn around. Hands behind your back. The cold snap of handcuffs locked around my wrists, and then, from across the street, I heard it. Karen's shrill cheer cutting through the afternoon. See, I told you he stole it. She spun her phone, live streaming the spectacle to her little online army, basking in their validation. But 2 minutes later, the VIN check came back clear. The car was mine, spotless, legitimate. The younger cop unclipped the cuffs and returned my ID. "Everything's in order, Mr. Reyes. Sorry for the hassle." Karen's smug grin melted instantly. Her crowd's phones lowered. Gasps replaced cheers. Some neighbors shifted uncomfortably, realizing they'd been rooting for the wrong side. I turned to the officer. "Let me guess. The caller was a Ms. Karen Glass." His silence was confirmation enough. He handed me my ID, shot Karen a withering glare, and drove off, leaving her sputtering in the middle of the street. "This isn't over, kid." "Not by a long shot," she hissed. That was the moment everything changed. Karen had escalated. She had weaponized neighbors, fake fines, even the police. Logic had failed. Laying low wasn't working. My lawyer's strategy was for victims. And I wasn't a victim. That night I sat in my office, monitors glowing in the dark. Sam walked in and placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "What are you doing?" she asked softly. "I'm done playing defense," I said, meeting her eyes. "This isn't just a neighborhood anymore. It's a battlefield. And Karen Glass has no idea who she's really fighting. For years, I'd built systems designed to be impenetrable. I knew how to find flaws, expose them, and exploit them. I had resources she couldn't even imagine. She thought she was battling a homeowner with a checkbook. What she didn't realize was that she'd declared war on someone who lived and breathed strategy. The HOA board had ignored me. The police had shrugged. That left me one option: fight back on my terms, and my terms were simple. I never start wars, but I always finish them. The war for Magnolia Ridge had begun. This wasn't about a car anymore. This was about peace, about justice, about making sure Karen could never do this to anyone else again. The decision wasn't made in a flash of rage. It was cold, methodical, precise. A battle plan born in the hum of servers and the glow of screens. Karen thought she was untouchable, the queen of her manicured kingdom. But she was a pretender, loud, reckless, sloppy. She relied on fear. I relied on data. My first call wasn't to my lawyer. It was to Rick, my old friend and business partner, a man who could see the entire world in streams of code and encrypted packets, the kind of genius who could pull secrets out of thin air. When I explained the situation, he didn't hesitate. He didn't pity me. He just asked, "So, when do we start?" That night, our home transformed. No longer just a sanctuary, it became a command center. The first step, eyes in the sky. I deployed a top-of-the-line drone, built for surveying commercial properties. It carried a 12K camera and thermal sensors. From 500 feet up, it was invisible, yet it mapped everything: Karen's visitors, her patterns, her movements. Every pixel streamed securely into my basement server. Next came the ears. I upgraded my security system, installing directional microphones, disguised as satellite dishes, legally aimed at the public street outside her home. Every sound, every car, every argument carried back to me. The final piece was thermal imaging. A system mounted on my house could track movements inside hers, not through walls, but through heat signatures. It showed when people entered, where they moved, when they left. Karen thought she had eyes on me. She had no idea I was already watching her in ways she couldn't begin to imagine. While I handled the hardware, Rick dug into the software. The HOA's website was a mess, a cheap template full of broken links. To most, it looked useless. To Rick, it was a treasure map. Within hours, he'd found more than a dozen vulnerabilities. Old backdoors, sloppy coding errors, holes left open for years. He didn't break in. Not yet. He mapped everything patiently, like a safe cracker feeling. The tumblers click into place. "It's laughable, man," Rick said over our encrypted line. "She's running the HOA finances on a 5-year-old laptop with no firewall. This isn't a fortress. It's a cardboard shack with a lock from a dollar store." Karen's empire wasn't built on brilliance. It was built on laziness, on the fact that no one ever questioned her. Fear kept people silent. Apathy kept them blind. But we weren't afraid, and we weren't tired. That balance of power was about to snap. Our first real lead came from someone I never expected. Derek. Derek was the neighborhood eccentric, a retired accountant in his late 60s, fueled by black coffee, conspiracy forums, and an obsession with tracking every bird that landed in his backyard. The day he spotted my drone, he shuffled over, eyes wide with suspicion. "Is that one of them government chemtrail monitors?" he asked, finger shaking skyward. I almost laughed. Instead, I kept it simple. "Something like that, Derek, just keeping an eye on the neighborhood." "Security." His whole face lit up. "Security? Good man. Somebody's got to do it. That glass woman's out of control." And then it started. 15 minutes of pure gold. Every petty crime, every ridiculous fine, every life she'd made miserable. The widow fined for a garden gnome 2 inches too tall. The young family threatened with a lawsuit over a swing set. Him slapped with a $200 ticket because his wind chimes were a source of auditory blight. He was a human case file. Proof that my fight wasn't personal, it was systemic. Karen had been bleeding this community for years. Fueled by Derek's testimony, Rick and I doubled down. And that's when the drone picked up something strange. Every night, 2 a.m. sharp, a sedan rolled into Karen's driveway. It idled exactly 15 minutes. No one got out. No one went in. Then it vanished into the dark. At first it was a ghost, unidentifiable, but Rick doesn't believe in ghosts. With some digital sleight of hand, he pulled a partial plate number from the footage. That plate led to a shell corporation, and that corporation led to one name: Martin Glass, Karen's brother, a disgraced real estate developer with a trail of bankrupt projects and lawsuits in his wake. Why was Martin meeting her in the dead of night? What did they need to hide? The answer came fast. Rick cracked the HOA's records in under 30 seconds. The password was literally Magnolia 123. Inside was chaos, disguised as bookkeeping, invoices to landscaping companies that didn't exist, contracts for pool services tied to empty lots, money funneled through paper trails that looped in circles until one name surfaced again and again: Martin. Karen wasn't just a petty tyrant. She was an embezzler. For 3 years, she'd siphoned nearly $500,000 from her own neighbors. It should have been enough. Enough to bury her, enough to end this. But it didn't explain the attacks on me, the lawsuit, the harassment, the intimidation. That wasn't how fraudsters operated. And then Rick struck gold again. 2 days of sifting, through raw noise captured by my directional mics, static baby monitors, garage doors, 99% useless. But hidden in the chaos, faint as a ghost, was their voices. A call between Karen and Martin. "Is it handled?" Martin snapped. "Is the tech brat getting the message?" Karen's voice dripped with frustration. "He's stubborn. He's not rolling over like the others. He called a lawyer." A pause. Then Martin's tone dropped, razor sharp. "Then push harder. The investors are getting nervous. We need that lot. It's the only one zoned for waterfront access. Without his property, the whole EV spa deal collapses." My chest went cold. An EV spa, not just a scam, not just power games. They wanted my house, my land, for a luxury electric vehicle spa. The lawsuit over my car wasn't random. It was their joke, their leverage. The $500,000 in stolen HOA funds? Just seed money. My home was the real prize. For the first time, I saw it clearly. This wasn't war with a neighbor. It was a hostile takeover. I played the recording for Sam. She stood by the window, staring at the life we'd built, her voice a whisper of steel. An EV spa. They want to bulldoze our home for a charging station with aromatherapy. When she turned back, the fire in her eyes could have melted iron. "So, what's the plan? And don't you dare say patience. We are past patience." I had it all now. Records, surveillance, a smoking gun. Enough to end Karen forever. My first instinct was raw fury. Upload the call, torch her reputation, watch her empire burn from my porch. But vengeance wasn't the same as justice, and what we did next would decide everything. With digital evidence in hand, I knew the legal process could drag on for months. In that time, Karen and her brother could erase trails, cover their tracks, or worse, tighten their grip. I paced the room, my mind racing. A legal-only route felt too slow, too uncertain, too fragile. But going full scorched earth, dropping everything online would just create chaos. It might expose her, sure, but it wouldn't dismantle the machine she'd built. It wouldn't stop someone like her from rising again. This isn't just about us anymore, I said, stopping in front of Sam. She's been pulling these stunts for years. Remember Derek's wind chimes? That woman with the garden gnome? Dozens of neighbors have been bullied into silence. If we only take Karen out, her system stays. The board stays complicit. The neighbors stay afraid. We can't cut the head off the snake. We have to burn the nest. That was the crossroads. Revenge or reform. Was this about punishing one tyrant or freeing an entire community? The question pulsed in my mind. How far does a man go to protect? His own? The answer was clear. He goes all the way. Not just for his house or his wife, but for the very idea of home, where justice means something real. My skills gave me power, but they also gave me responsibility. I couldn't back down. Sam's eyes hardened. No half measures. We expose everything, not just to the police, but to the neighborhood. Let them be the jury. And with that, the plan was born. This wouldn't be a quiet takedown. It would be a public reckoning. The HOA's annual meeting, Karen's favorite show of power, was 1 week away. This year, it wouldn't be her stage. It would be her trial. Rick built a presentation pack. Invoices, bank transfers, drone footage, audio recordings, all encrypted on a single drive, ready to slot into the community center's projector. I reached out to Derek, hinting at financial irregularities. His response was electric. He rallied the other victims, spreading whispers that this year's meeting was one nobody could miss. The rebellion had begun. The night before the meeting, Karen sent her enforcers banging on our door, citing some absurd new rule about unauthorized lighting. Pathetic. I didn't even answer. Instead, I triggered the hidden sprinkler system I'd rigged along the driveway. A torrent of high-pressure water blasted them off their feet, soaking them to the bone. They scrambled back to their car, humiliated. I watched it all on the monitor, a small grin forming. A petty victory, yes, but a sign of things to come. The stage was set. Tomorrow, at the Magnolia Ridge Community Center, the curtain would rise. And Karen Glass had no clue she was the star. The day of the meeting arrived. The sky hung gray, heavy, as if it knew what was about to unfold. I suited up, not for Karen, but as armor for what was ahead. Sam kissed me at the door. "Give them hell," she whispered. Rick sat parked down the street, laptop open, ready to stream live on my signal. Inside, nearly 50 neighbors filled the chairs, double the usual turnout. Their faces carried fear, bitterness, and a spark of hope. Derek gave me a nod. At the head table sat Karen Glass, draped in a red blazer, her face smug with authority. She thought the crowd was proof of her leadership. She had no idea it was her firing squad. Her speech droned on. Property values, rules, self-congratulations. I let her speak, let her dig her own grave. Then, finally, she opened the floor. "Yes. Mr. Henderson," she said, pointing at me with a shark smile. "Here to discuss your liens?" "Actually, no," I replied, standing calmly. I raised the thumb drive. "I'm here to present evidence about the HOA's finances." A murmur spread. Karen's smile faltered. All presentations must be pre-approved, she snapped. Then let's amend the agenda, Derek shouted. Others joined in. The dam of fear shattered. Karen had no choice. Fine, she hissed. Make it quick. I walked to the podium, plugged in the drive, and whispered, Rick, we're live. Within seconds, the meeting streamed to residents, news outlets, even the state attorney general's office. The first slide. My $10,000 noise fine, followed by silent footage of my car. The room was dead quiet. Then invoice after invoice, fake. Landscaping companies, defunct pool services, all tracing back to one man, Martin Glass. Gasps erupted. Phones came out. Karen's face drained of color. Next came drone footage. Her brother's car pulling up night after night. Anger swelled. Her hired muscle, sensing the turn, slipped quietly out the back. Then the audio. Karen's voice, dripping, with disdain. He's stubborn, not rolling over like the others. Martin's reply, we need that lot. Without it, the EV project dies. It was a bomb. The crowd erupted. Shouts of thief and liar filled the room. Karen froze, stunned, her power dissolving before her eyes. Just as I was about to cut the feed, my watch buzzed. A message from Rick. Dude, you need to see this. One more file. It's bad. Really bad. The story wasn't over. There was one last card to play, and it was bigger than Karen Glass. These weren't the same uninterested officers from before. This time, detectives arrived, faces cold, serious, sent straight from the DA's office. The moment Karen realized who they were, panic struck her like lightning. Fight or flight? She chose flight. Her eyes landed on an abandoned golf cart near the tennis courts, keys dangling carelessly from the ignition. In a desperate, pitiful attempt at escape, she lunged in, slammed her foot on the pedal, and the cart jolted forward, across the manicured lawn. The machine bounced, swerved, and tore through the very turf she had spent years terrorizing everyone over. A twisted irony, her empire reduced to shredded grass beneath squealing tires. Her escape? Pathetic. 15 seconds, no more. The cart careened wildly, then slammed with a dull, almost comical thud into the side of a waiting police cruiser. The detectives didn't even need to chase her. They strolled forward calmly, pulled her out of the wreck, and cuffed her without resistance. And then it happened. A cheer erupted. Neighbors poured onto the lawn, shouting, clapping, roaring with cathartic triumph. Years of quiet fear and bottled frustration exploded into that single victorious sound. Inside the community, Hall, the HOA board, Karen's silent enabling court, faced the fury of the residents. Surrounded, cornered, they cracked instantly, scribbling their resignations on the backs of meeting agendas. Just like that, the corrupt reign was finished. An empire toppled in less than an hour. The aftermath moved fast. Investigators sealed both Karen's lavish home and the HOA office, naturally the same building. Commissioner Thompson was suspended that afternoon and in handcuffs before nightfall. News vans swarmed the neighborhood, cameras flashing, capturing the smiles of liberated residents. Derek, now the unlikely voice of Magnolia Ridge, gave fiery interviews, waving the infamous wind chime fine as a badge of honor. Within days, a special election was held. Victims of Karen's abuse formed the new HOA board. Their first act? Erase every fine issued in the last 5 years. Their second? Hire real accountants to untangle the financial disaster Karen left behind. My lawsuit? Gone. My name? Cleared. But more important than my vindication was the community's rebirth. Whispers turned into conversations. Neighbors smiled again. Cookouts, block parties, laughter. It wasn't just recovery. It was renewal. We had discovered the truth. Protecting property values wasn't about tyranny and endless rules. It was about creating a neighborhood where people actually wanted to live. A week later, Sam and I sat on our patio, the same place where Karen's fake guards once tried to intimidate us. Now the only sound was the wind rustling through the oaks. Peace, real peace. My phone buzzed. A text from Rick, a news article. The headline read, "Former HOA president and city commissioner indicted in sweeping fraud case." Justice wasn't an idea anymore, it was real. It had a court date, a headline, consequences. Sam leaned her head on my shoulder, her smile soft, genuine. "You did it," she whispered. "You didn't just defend us, you saved everyone." And in that quiet moment, I knew the answer to the question that had driven me from the very beginning. How far will a man go to defend his own? The answer was simple, all the way to the truth. Because protecting your own isn't just about four walls. It's about fairness, justice, and community. It's about ensuring your home is truly a sanctuary for everyone. I stepped into the garage. There it was, the Spectre. Its cobalt blue body gleamed under the lights. More than just a car, it was now a symbol, a battle fought, a war survived. The justice system, finally awake, moved swiftly. Karen and her brother, drowning in charges from fraud to conspiracy, took plea deals to avoid a humiliating trial. They would serve time. Commissioner Thompson, fired, disgraced, his career in ruins, facing his own charges. The corrupt EV spa project, dissolved overnight, its investors gone like smoke. Magnolia Ridge was free. Derek, to everyone's surprise, proved an effective HOA president. The bylaws were rewritten, this time to uplift, not oppress. Recovered funds trickled back into the HOA accounts. The neighborhood was breathing again. Sam and I slept peacefully for the first time in months. We laughed more. We talked about finally getting that dog. The war was over. Neighbors who once avoided eye contact now waved cheerfully. We weren't just residents anymore. We were a community, forged through fire. One sunny Saturday, I walked into the garage, pulled the cover off the Spectre, and just admired it. Not as a target, not as a symbol of wealth, but as a beautiful piece of engineering, a reminder of how far we'd come. I slid into the seat, the leather cool against my skin. The engine hummed silently to life. At the driveway's edge, I paused. Children pedaled their bikes, a neighbor watered flowers, the faint buzz of a mower drifted on the breeze. No guards, no glares, just peace. Sam joined me in the passenger seat. "Where to?" she asked, her smile brighter than the morning sun. "Anywhere," I said, and I meant it. The Spectre's iconic doors, suicide doors, clicked shut with a soft thud. Once a morbid name, now oddly fitting. We had faced down death, betrayal, and corruption, and won. We glided past Derek's home, his famous wind chimes tinkling in victory. He waved with a grin and returned to his roses. Just another quiet Saturday in suburbia. But we knew better. We knew what it had cost to earn this moment. The lesson was clear. You don't need an army to win a war. Sometimes all it takes is truth, determination, and refusing to bow. Justice isn't always served in a courtroom. It's sometimes fought for on your own street, sometimes broadcasted in a live stream, and sometimes it's reflected in the shine of a cobalt blue car rolling out of a garage. The gates of Magnolia Ridge stood open. The road ahead was clear. We were finally free.